All right, good to have you with us here on the Good Friday edition of the South African Morning. I'm Gareth Edwards. The Human Rights Commission is demanding a 500,000 rand and an apology from artist Steve Hofmeyr. Now, it relates to comments that he made about the LGBTQI plus community. The background to this story is the Afrikaans singer had criticized Disney and their plans to have more inclusive characters. The entertainment giant says minorities and the LGBTQI community must be represented. Hofmeyr said this will be teaching children about, and I quote, bestiality. Jabu Pereira from Iranti joining us this morning. Jabu, good morning to you. What do you feel? How angry are you when you hear comments like that in 2022?
Hi, Gareth. Well, yeah, look, it's Steve Hofmeyr. I'm not sure how serious a commentary we need to make. However, I think, his comments is pretty harmful to many people. So I think there are many people who are angry, parents, children, families, across spectrum of people. And I think at Iranti, we have certainly are concerned. We also welcome the Human Rights Commission's charge against Steve Hofmeyr. I think it's the right response. We live in a constitutional democracy, and it has to be dealt with. I think anger has to translate into human rights protections.
Absolutely. Why do you think we still have comments like this in this generation when we've been fighting for and discussing and keeping in the headlines the rights of LGBTQIA plus communities for so long? Why do you think we still get comments like this? Is it a lack of education? Is it an ignorance? Is it an arrogance thing?
No, it's not that. It's people that are absolutely well informed. They hold a particular right-wing conservative agenda about what the definition of a family is. And in their agendas, the definition of a family is a heteronormative, heterosexual family, a cisgender-born family who is happily married. And so anybody that falls outside of that spectrum, including Steve Hofmeyr, ironically, is perceived to be not of the high moral fabric that God had intended. And so there's a high level of religious right-wing conservative people, not only religiously based, that are having a massive pushback, particularly as you've seen in the US and what's coming clearly in South Africa and beyond, is the gender backlash towards people who affirm their gender identities, be it transgender, non-binary, within their sexual orientation, be it gay, lesbian, bisexual, and so on. So Steve Hofmeyr's comments replicate the comments of a conservative right, very intentional group that appear to be there for the voice and the concerns of children. And they use the agenda of the rights of the child to advance their agenda against the rights of people within society to determine their bodily autonomy around their sexual orientation and their gender identity. So it's definitely not an ignorant thing at all.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, because we are talking about Disney, which is launching a platform here later in the year, and they are making a very concerted effort to represent minority groups and LGBTQIA plus communities. What do you make of that move? And then part two of my question, help me and perhaps viewers at home, how do we start educating and introducing younger children to this inclusive society that we're all aiming for? How do you have that conversation?
The one thing about Disney historically is that it's premised on a lot of racist, homophobic, transphobic narratives. So historically, Disney has had an agenda that was very problematic. And I think all of us can resonate with only seeing white character cartoons, heteronormative character cartoons, and so forth. So I think this particular shift within the animation category, within diversifying content, diversifying anime characters. I think that's pretty healthy. For a child who is questioning their gender identity, to only know that there are superheroes that are heteronormative or that are only men, for young women to be able to see that there can be women superheroes, there can be transgender superheroes, there can be a gay superhero. I think these kind of role modeling is exactly what we need to instill in children. One, to reduce suicidality, to reduce depression, and to stop alienating children that are in minority identities. And that sometimes includes minority identities around race. I recall a child, it was a social media story, but a young black girl calling herself ugly because she has never seen an affirming anime story about a black young girl. And I think this is the harm that media causes, and I think Disney's making the right decision, given that the heir of Disney World is a trans person. I also welcome that. I think it's about time that we also see where money goes. So Steve Hofmeyr, in a way, one is rather ill-informed, and I hope that the Human Rights Commission's wins their case and that he does go on some kind of sensitization type of training. He was supposed to do that sensitization training on race, on misogyny. He has a history of gender-based violence. I mean, the person is unwell. And so to target the LGBTI community clearly is not about his concerns about children. I think this is an agenda to elevate the life and the irrelevant life of Steve Hofmeyr. But we are here to protect the Constitution, and we won't allow Steve Hofmeyr of any form to be able to do this. So I think it's, I'm not deeply concerned, but I do think he is really abusing media spaces, and we are here today to talk about this, which is great, but because of him.
I'm going to say, Jabu, I'm going to say thank you very much. I think you've echoed what many, many people and most people around the country feel as well. This is why I wanted to speak to you, and I appreciate your time. I wish you nothing but love and happiness over the Easter weekend. Jabu Pereira, Director of Iranti, joining us here on eNCA. I've got just